No, I was just waiting you guys to decide on
Just
that.
shut up, I understand.
Well, I just yeah. Oh well.
Harry,
We just
Harry's
we'll
sitting
go with
like a
that.
teacher. Harry's sitting, Harry's sitting there like a teacher, waiting for the class to quiet down.
Okay, we're live by the way.
Yeah, I
Okay, we're
realized, I
live by the
realized that
way.
isn't gonna stop me though. Oh,
Oh,
I even got
good
a
stuff.
notification. Story time begins now.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Story Time with Scrappy and Friends. This is our first December episode of the year. My name is Scrappy Fan 92. With me today are Harry, Pedriva, and Raider Ram.
Bananas.
Sound off.
1, 2,
Sound off.
Anyway,
3, 4.
we are again reading In Your Shadow by One Shot Revolt, a Mortal Kombat story focusing on Sub-Zero and Noob Saibot in the Netherrealm. We are probably going to conclude this today, so that will at least be another feather in our cap.
Yeah! We're gonna be like done with it and stuff. It's crazy. Just in time for Christmas.
Yeah, so you better get to writing that story, Scrappy.
I was writing it earlier today, actually.
Yeah,
Cool.
he's apparently done with the outline, so
I noticed that.
yeah.
Mm.
It's gonna be a chunky one, whatever it is, you know?
I don't think it'll be
hope.
that chunky.
Oh, definitely not. No way, right?
Turns out
Then
to be
it
like,
becomes,
Tempts me.
turns out to be the longest thing we've read.
Yeah, on Christmas it's like a 60-page, 37-chapter per like thing, or 60-chapter, 37-page per chapter kind of story.
If I could actually do that on the regular, I'd just be writing a book.
Yeah.
Aside from the
Probably,
book, I'd
yeah.
be writing.
A whole ass novel.
Yeah.
Dang, yo, Spider-Man's kind of going in right now. Look at him go. Ooh.
So yeah, where we last left off, Sub-Zero and Noob Saibot were just their plan to unleash the gates of hell against Quan Chi basically failed. We had some canon typical violence finally, and yeah, Serena turned against her fellow minions, I guess, and she joined. She threw her lot in with Sub-Zero again. But yeah, the plan failed. Quan Chi's here. He's brought his Oni friends.
So there were. Hold on. There were two Oni.
Yes, there were two Oni. The one with the mask, Brahmin, and the one with the, I guess, the ball, the chain and not club, but the chain, the ball and chain. That's Malak.
Oh, so one of them's married. Congratulations!
What?
The old ball and chain.
Okay. Just making sure.
And was that everything?
Basically,
Cool. I'm so happy we got the canon typical violence just in time for Christmas season.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
spelled with a K.
Unfortunately, we couldn't unlock the gates of hell for Christmas season. Maybe next
But
year.
you know what is spelled with a K? Chris Kringle.
Ooh.
Let's go.
My favorite Mortal Kombat character. So,
Oh lord.
So?
yeah, the final chapter and the epilogue of In Your Shadow by One Shot Revolt. Chapter 6, Brothers in Arms.
Indeed. Quailine found himself paralyzed under the scrutiny of two empty, hollow red eyes.
I knew there was something off about you. I put the stink of life about you down to Noob Saibot's recent return from Earthrealm. But now here you are, bleeding red.
The Oni either side of Quan Chi shifted eagerly and turned their crumpled faces toward Sub-Zero. He felt the hunger emanating from them, palpable and heavy. like dogs straining at a leash.
Come, my dear friends.
Quan Chi opened his arms wide, his melodious voice ringing loud.
Let us give a proper Netherrealm welcome. We have the Grand Master of the Lin Kuei in our midst.
Furtive imps, harpies, and devilish horned creatures crawled back up to line the barrage of bodies and peered down into the curious arena made of the hilltop summit. Serena glanced sidelong at Kuai Lang. While she knew he was not his brother, he had never revealed his identity as Grand Master to her. Quan Chi took a step forward. His ghastly pale skin picked up the red hues from the burning sky above, and offset the twisted circles of old enchantments tattooed into his flesh.
And I suppose I should have expected the treacherous duo to make a comeback.
His eyes narrowed on Serena, then passed on to Noob Saibot. The wraith in the shadow knelt in the earth, fingers tracing patterns in the dust, a low chant still passing from him in a continuous drum. There was a desperation in his posture, and a foolishness to the urgency of the scrabbling in the dust.
Not as easy as it looks, is it, noob?
As you could tell, Quan Chi laughed. The wraith ignored him. Quan Chi stepped forward. Kuai Lang moved and blocked his path.
An admirable effort, Grandmaster. I'm afraid all your efforts have all been in vain. Surely you must know that Noob Saibot cannot leave this place. He cannot be saved. He is reborn as a wraith. Surely you are not fool enough to think that the undead shadows that serve me in Netherrealm bear any resemblance to their former selves. That is not your brother. Your brother burned alive.
Kuai Lang said nothing. He merely held his ground, curled his fingers into fists at Quan Chi's with a chilling, steadfast stare.
You were looking stronger, Grandmaster. When I saw you last, you were barely out of youth, running around Shang Tsung's Mortal Kombat tournament, trying to challenge my Spectre Scorpion to a death match. My poor, foolish servant could never quite understand why there were so many Sub-Zeros and why they were all out to kill him. Not the brightest one, but unstoppable in his fury, as dear Noob Saibot here found out a little too late. So sad that Scorpion managed to wriggle free of me. I would dearly like to have seen him finish the two of you off.
Kuai Lang gritted his teeth but kept his peace, standing rooted and immovable between Quan Chi and his brother. When he was again met with silence, Quan Chi's face lapsed from humor into his usual sour lines.
Come, Serena.
He said coldly.
The charade has gone on long enough. You belong at my side. Return now and your punishment will be much lighter.
Kuai Lang glanced at her. There was something hopeful in her eyes, almost as if she was considering the proposal.
Serena.
Sub-Zero said gently but firmly. She looked at him, and he saw the fear in her. She drew from his quiet strength until her face was set and stubborn again.
Ray Ram, do you want to be Serena? I know Noob's not gonna, I don't think Noob's
Yeah,
speaking much.
this is you're carrying this whole thing. I guess I will take Serena. I guess I will take Serena. Okay. No more, Quan Chi. I will no longer be under your power. I will be free of you.
Very well.
Quan Chi said brightly, and much to everyone's surprise.
I shall cease to exercise all power over you, Serena. I will lift all my magics that lie on you, and you will be free to...
Wait.
Serena broke in suddenly. She shot a sidelong look at Kuai Lang. Her fear was back, but it did not seem to stem from the same place it had before. Kuai looked at her in confusion.
Wait.
She turned back to Quan Chi. The necromancer had a lethargic, knowing look to his face.
Serena,
He drawled slowly.
did you forget to mention to your new friend about your... condition?
Serena looked panicked. She licked her lips, then curled and uncurled her fists.
What do you reckon, my dear? Will these two bold, stoic men allow you to keep their company if you do not wear this alluring form. Let's test it, shall we?
No!
She cried suddenly.
Master, wait!
Sub-Zero balked at her change in terms of address.
Serena.
He said again.
I'm a demon.
She said brokenly, turning to him. Quan Chi stepped back with a smile and let the encounter play out.
I know.
He did know, even if he did not entirely know what that meant.
I don't look like this in my natural state.
That doesn't matter to me.
It would. It would if you saw me. If you knew what I really was.
All her posture had curled inward in shame, and her voice was becoming hysterical. She looked back to Quan Chi.
Please don't. Just let me stay like this. I'll come with you.
Serena!
Kwai said in the sharp voice he usually reserved for dealing with his fierce apprentice, Frost. He pulled back his hood and took off his mask, revealing dark cropped hair and pale skin where the gray strip of paint across his upper face stopped. A thin scar straggled from his brow down through one eye.
The things we present ourselves as and try to appear as.
His eyes strayed to Noob Saibot, who was cupping purple flames in his hands and whispering madly.
Do not define us. The things we choose to do, the people we choose to trust. These things are more truly us.
He stepped closer to her.
I know. I, of all people, know.
Her eyes thinned to slits.
You do not. You do not see the way I am looked at in my true form. I need this. I need this beauty. Bihan and you would have both killed me if I did not have it. You judge with your sight even without thinking of it. When you see something you are attracted to, you give it the chances. Yeah, you give it the chances that something hideous never would have had.
That's not true.
It is.
She insisted fiercely.
I have to be this way. I have to appear this way. And it's not for me. It's for people like you.
No!
Kwai could feel himself stalling.
Bihan, help me! Did I not come through?
Yeah. No,
You came through, it's just
I'm
the-
thinking too much about who this line is.
Yeah.
It's Serena.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking too much about it. When Bihan first came to our domain, he left a trail of slaughter in his wake. Demons and beasts of all sizes fell to him. Someone with the appearance of a young, beautiful woman.
You cut out. I didn't hear the only ones part.
Yeah.
Damn it! Was it after only once?
It cut off right before you said only once.
Okay. Oh, okay, I'll start a little back then. Demons and beasts of all sizes fell to him. Only once did he spare someone. Someone with the appearance of a young, beautiful woman.
So you would fault him for his mercy now?
You seduce me with the fractions of emotion you let slip through your cold, cruel exteriors, dangle freedom before my face, and bait me with it. I keep falling for you and suffering for you. Sometimes I wish I had never met you, Sub-Zero.
Bihan and Kwai Lang both stared at her. Neither knew who she spoke to, but that did not seem to matter for the present.
This time will be different.
Kwai Lang said earnestly.
We...
You will what? Take back a full-formed demon to your Lin Kuei temple?
She stalked forward proudly, holding high her head with flowing black locks streaked with artful white.
Beauty in Netherrealm looks the same as beauty in Earthrealm. Until that changes, I know where I have to be.
She offered an elegant hand to Quan Chi, who kept his laughing eyes on Sub-Zero as he brought her fingers to his lips.
Go collect your sister's remains, Serena. It's going to take some time to piece them back together.
She bowed low to him and walked on.
Serena,
Kuai called.
don't go. We need you. Bihan and I. We cannot do this alone.
She looked back once with all the torn agony of one riven in two. Then she left. Sub-Zero swallowed and held his ground between Quan Chi and Noob Saibot. The necromancer tilted his head.
And then there were two.
He smiled thinly.
It was good of Noob to bring you here, Sub-Zero. I would have had a hard time bartering your soul with Raiden. Much easier to take what's already here, as Noob well knows.
Sub-Zero was adamant and unfazed in the face of the taunts. He knew that Quan Chi meant to shake his resolve, but his determination and certainty were one of the few things that rarely failed him. He heard something stir behind him. He paused, glancing at the sorcerer, unwilling to let him out of his sight, even fractionally. The necromancer looked strangely sedate, however. Kuai chanced a glimpse behind. His brother had stooped in his long ritual and was looking past to Quan Chi. Kuai found it hard to read him with the mask, the hood, and the wide eyes. But there was a cornered, uncertain fear to his posture.
Bihan.
Kuai whispered. The wraith's eyes swiveled to him.
Keep going. I have this.
There was a long pause. Then the wraith nodded and bent to his task again.
I rarely have to resort to physically destroying my servants when they disobey me.
Quan Chi offered the explanation matter of fact, as if speaking to Kuai of the weather.
It's much easier to hold their greatest fears to ransom. Tell me, Sub-Zero, did you ever ask your brother what temperature fire has to be to burn a cryomancer alive?
The sorcerer took another step closer, pushing into Kuai's personal space. Sub-Zero flexed his shoulders, pulled himself taller, and stared down the sorcerer. The necromancer carried on oblivious.
Let's see. It has to be hot enough to take all the moisture out the air first. Otherwise, the cryomancer reflexively summons ice and layers that are not quite enough to stop the burning, but are enough to delay death by quite some time. I'm surprised he did not mention that to you. He must have known there was high likelihood that his exploits would see you incarcerated in one of Netherrealm's more infamous planes. But perhaps that does not concern him. Perhaps you were merely a tool to his ends.
Kuai realized that Quan Chi's eyes were not on him at all, and that his words were aimed straight at the wraith. Sub-Zero did not look back, instead pulling back his head and rammed his skull down straight into Quan Chi's chin. The necromancer staggered back, clutching his jaw. The Oni beside him stirred to life. Quan Chi threw out an arm to stop them. They reluctantly obeyed.
And I was being so civil, Sub-Zero.
He brought his fingers away and wrinkled his nose at the blood that came too.
But if you really insist on violence, that of course can be arranged.
Kuai Lang glanced around him for anything that he might use in his favor.
Let's see how long you last. An Earthrealmer in another realm against two Oni.
Kuai knew that the necromancer was signaling to the beasts beside him. This was going to be a very short match given all the current conditions.
I don't want to end up here. Not Netherrealm. Better nothingness. An eternal stillness of nothing than this place.
He raised his eyes skyward in desperation. Dark purple clouds curled spirals above the bleak standing stones. In the slowed down moments that come with resolute acceptance, he found himself wondering what Netherrealm clouds were made of. He reached his arms wide and leaned back, fingers rigid as he sought for water caught in the skies above. Air moved about him. It twisted and funneled, struggling hot and dry toward him. He strained his reach, willing the moisture from its tormented, stagnant confines. Puce? 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 Is that the word? Puce?
Puce.
Okay. Puce clouds, right. Dragged by a thin twist of air. A distant boom sounded out across the sky. He was reminded that this realm was not his realm, that he did not belong here. The people in places far away awaited him, and that there was no ice in the nether realm, just as there was no thunder. A tornado of dark clouds sped down to him, dissipating into 1,000 water droplets as he summoned the vapor to him. He drew it to him until there was nothing left. The sky was bare and empty, lit by the eternal ember of distant fire. Sub-Zero released ice from him, an enormous explosion that froze the very air before him. He could not see for the raging blizzard that blasted forth from him. He could not hear for the sound of the Arctic wind roaring in his ears. He could not feel for the numbing cold soaking all around him. When he opened his eyes, there were snowflakes. They turned light upon the air. Glittering blue iceberg with perfect lines deep aquamarine stood before him. He stepped in this new scene like a child caught in wonder. He reached out to touch the glass-cold surface of the iceberg. Within, he saw the enraged, stunned faces of the Oni. One with its armed club raised high to crush him, the other with ball and chain caught mid-flight. Between the two stood Quan Chi. Despite being frozen, his eyeballs followed Sub-Zero.
Impressive.
Noob Saibot looked up where he knelt. A rim of light snow collected on his mask.
Yes.
Sub-Zero agreed. He would take a compliment from Bihung whenever it was offered.
I have a feeling this is a very impermanent solution, though.
The hand he brought away from the ice was wet. The snowflakes had ceased and a pool of water was seeping from the ice before evaporating with a soft hiss on the hot earth.
If you could hurry up with this portal.
I am hurrying.
It's not noticeable.
Stop distracting me, Kuai Lang. I'm nearly done.
Very nearly, I hope.
The dripping ice was steaming. It began to tremble under the convulsions of its occupants. Cracks split the deep, pure surfaces of flat white. The cracks spread, darting and jolting in random directions, like rats in gutters.
When you said nearly, are we talking another hour nearly, or a few seconds nearly?
Sub-Zero watched the cracks split into fissures. The fissures ruptured further, shooting shards of ice as they did so. He backed away. He could think of nothing more. His eyes were run as dry as the picture before him as was becoming. He summoned the Kori sword of ice to his hands and again positioned himself between the shuddering iceberg and Noob Saibot. He let his posture relax into a strong, steady stance, like old ice. He breathed deep in through his nose and out through his mouth. He centered his mind, recalling the meditative stillness he had felt in the midst of that momentary blizzard.
It would be good to see home again. To feel that true stillness that only comes with deep, silent winters. One day it will happen. You and I will stand in the dead of midnight sun on equal terms. There will be no need for words, because we will speak the language of the cold, and that will be enough. Elder gods, is that too much to ask?
Ice cracked open. Bursting like a newborn from its shell, the two Oni roared and beat their chests to the sky. Quan Chi blasted away the remains of the ice with green flames. All signs of conversation were gone from his face. Instead, his shoulders hunched with rage and menace as he gathered himself, eyes ignited with fury. A jarring grated through the air with a sound like liquid being sucked violently into one place. A perfect silence followed for all of a fraction. Good lord. Then an explosion of light and noise burst from behind Kuai before retracting and stabilizing itself into massive swirling black and violet portal. Kwai had enough time to be startled by the churning anomaly before his vision started to swim green and he felt his limbs snap to his sides. His will buffeted down to a small, thin voice screaming inside his own skull. A blur of frantic energy sheared all about him. Out the corners of his eyes, he could see strange new figures, humanoids with faces wrought by twisting, aimless tattoos, laughing as they leapt and ran past him. Their bodies moved with an odd freedom, contorting easily to dodge arrows and stones. Their joints bent in impossible directions even as their war cries ran backwards. They jumped upon and swarmed the enormous Oni, their unique, customized weapons flashing across the grotesque demonic hulks. Others danced past all together to run nimbly up the wall of corpses and drag off netherrealm creatures lurking there. All was a wash and buzz of movement. But noise... Wait, all was a wash? Yeah, okay. But noise was somehow distant and far away. Twilight could look only straight forward where a green tunnel of energy dragged his unwilling limbs into staggering steps ever closer to Quan Chi. The necromancer had a bloodless pale hand contorted in an invisible grip as he summoned Sub-Zero forward. All ease and aloof leisure were gone out of the necromancer's expression. His true colors of raw loathing and twisted hunger were hideous upon his face. Sub-Zero could see the future the necromancer intended for him written behind the crimson of his eyes. The Earthrealmer struggled against the hole, desperately trying to regain control of his body as it walked with a lethargic, stunted steps to its doom. He could feel his heartbeat galloping in his chest and his throat drying and his helpless amble neared its termination. With his free hand, the sorcerer pulled a wicked, ornate sacrificial blade from a scabbard. Sub-Zero tried to keep his eyes on the weapon, but they would not obey. As he drew close, his field of vision narrowed until the sword vanished from his sight, raised high off somewhere to his right. He heard it swing through the dead air. He did not have any thoughts as he waited with tunneled sight and immobile limbs, myopic attention captured by the vision of eternal hellfire and torture lit in Quan Chi's eyes. Time seemed to slow, and his mind was dragged forth to a scene as sharp and real as the vivid dreams that had burst into his sleep every time he had laid down to rest in Netherrealm. This time, when he looked down, however, his arms were pasty white and inscribed with old red runes and circles. He was laughing. There was an indescribable malice and emptiness fueling that manic laughter. Before him was himself, Kuai Lang, dressed in the garb of the Grand Master of the Lin Kuei. The front of the Grand Master's garb was held in the grip of one white hand. The Grand Master's back was to a precipice. Below, a river boiled. It was a coagulated, congealing, curdling red. Each bubble burst left thick bloodstains on the bare cliff rock. A sky on fire blazed mad red and hot, screaming orange above. Flames felt like burning arrows in the horizon and set ablaze a long, empty desert, upon which gray bodies writhed and twitched.
Come, Grandmaster Kuai Lang. Gosh, time to meet fate.
He heard the dark, melodious, and unmistakable tones of Quan Chi issue from himself. The boiling blood gurgled and babbled below. He watched from the sorcerer's vantage as his white hand let go of the blue robes and the Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei fell. He felt the sorcerer's erupting vindictive hatred when he caught sight of the terror in the Grandmaster's eyes as he disappeared below. Green and black split his vision into a riot of confusion. The river of blood jolted and jarred, and was suddenly disrupted into a shadowy, hazy scene. It smelt real, and the way the light fell, this did not have to be fine-grained image for him to know it. There's definitely like a couple missing letters in a bunch of these recently. This is kind of crazy. He had spent most of his life in this room. It was the sleeping cell he and his brother had shared all their life under the old Grand Master of the Lin Kuei. It looked different, though. He had not seen it from this angle before. He was looking at this bed from a low angle on the other side of the room. He could just make out the bamboo mat and thrown back cover in the dim light of night. Rain pounded on the thin wood door, and thunder curled and boomed beyond. A small child stood in the center of his room. The child had bare feet and curled his toes against the cold stone of the floor. He did not recognize him. He looked very young, much younger than any child Kuai Lang had seen at the temple before, and certainly too young to be admitted to the school under his watch as Grand Master.
Go back to bed.
He told the child. The boy's arms hugged himself, and he shook his head.
Do as you're told. You must be brave from now on. Be brave and strong, and everything will be all right.
Another boom of thunder set the door rattling. A bright flash of light ignited the room. The child flinched, but otherwise did not move or speak. Wide eyes stared straight at him. He felt a surge of compassion well within him. His sternness faltered, and he tried to swallow down the pity he felt for the child. He fought with himself for a long moment before saying more gently,
Come here, Kuai Liang.
The small boy did as he was bidden. He pulled the covers over the child and let him curl up against his chest. He folded his arms around the cold, shaking body and he folded his arms around the cold, shaking body and let his embrace be a shelter from the dark shadows of the night. The burp, so I had to just take a second to... Okay, I'm good now. Tight arms wrapped around Kuai Lang. There was an agonizing war for his body that lasted all of half a second, but left him a battleground of pain as control was wrenched from the necromancer. Whoops. Sub-Zero himself constricted through the sudden suffocating blackness of void and shadow. When he burst free into the hot, chaotic world once more, he thought for a moment that he had forgotten how to breathe. He gripped tightly onto the arms before him, lurching and retching for air, mind still plowed up by the hypnotic flames of hell seared into his thought from moments before.
You are safe.
He let himself be brought out of dark places by that familiar voice. Even the sound of it quieted while his storms in it. And he gasped it in desperately. His shoulders heaved as he breathed in and out, restoring movement and freedom to his muscles.
I thought in the end, there will be so much fire, so much pain, so much.
It will not be your fate. I swear it.
It was. I was already there. I was half a second from it.
Kuai Lang.
Sub-Zero looked up to his brother's face. He faintly recalled it lit by the monochrome of a thunderstorm. The way lightning had carved the shape of his eyes, cheekbones, and the sharp angle of his brow.
I am sorry. I wasn't there for you.
Kuai started.
I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'm sorry I couldn't save you.
It's a result of breaking Quan Chi's mind control over you.
I couldn't hear the. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the.
Yeah.
Ah, god damn it. God damn it. Oh, I'm dying. Okay. So, the first half?
Yeah.
Like, I heard. I said, I'm sorry, I couldn't save you. And all I heard.
Clearly.
Yeah, like that sounded like Noob just being jackass.
Clearly.
Clearly.
Clearly you couldn't save me.
Okay. Breathe. You're not thinking clearly. It's a result of breaking Quan Chi's mind control over you.
You were there for me all my life, and the one time you needed me, I wasn't there.
It wasn't your fault, Kuai Lang. It was nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the path
It was to do with me. You were my brother. Should not have let you down. Should have been at your side.
You are at my side now.
The exchange was so quick, the words came and went like sharp changing winds without thought for things like pomposity, pride, and deliberation. Sub-Zero breathed more slowly and regularly.
You are my brother, Anakin!
God damn.
That's exactly what I was thinking. No one had to say it, but Harry did.
Thanks, Harry.
Okay, where was I again? I lost where I was.
The pomposity, pride, and deliberation.
Okay.
A little bit after that.
Yeah, Sub-Zero breathed more slowly and regularly, his mind cleared. He was standing on the edge of the hilltop, with molten magma slithering away as a thin river below him. He realized he was still holding fast to Noob Saibot after the teleport. He realized his grip quickly and straightened up.
Released.
Oh, really? That's the reason why everything felt so weird. For some reason, I kept saying realized. He released his grip quickly and straightened up. You see, now I'm all thrown off because Anakin and stuff. Drawing back
Suddenly,
his shoulders.
Anakin.
You're welcome.
Drawing back his shoulders and standing tall, the roving swirl of an indigo portal stood between them and Quan Chi. A cackling overflow of Chaos Realmers were leaping in sprightly. Quick advances from the wound rent in the sky. Their tattooed torsos flooded the hillside, slithering the air with the screams of netherrealm creatures. The frenzied sounds and smell of war were beginning to start up in earnest now that there were two sides to the battle. There's a war missing there.
Yeah, it's either of.
Likely
something.
two sides in the battle.
Yeah.
Or to the battle. Or of the battle. Oh, it could be anything. Two sides to battle. Let's just go with that.
We must leave here quickly.
Noob said and set his grip on Sub-Zero again, ready to teleport.
No.
Noob stopped and looked at him.
We must go. The turn of the tides is yet to be determined. Whether Netherrealm falls or not, you must return to your Earthrealm portal. Your task is done here.
I have a debt yet unpaid. I need to stay. I need to stay here and help you win this war.
It is not a debt, Kuai Lang. It is just who I was. Now this is who I am. And you are who you are. And you must go. And don't forget to believe in the you that believes in you.
Kuai Lang ground his teeth and turned away sharply. As he did so, he felt acutely the recent harrying assault on his mind. The whole Anakin thing. The teeth punctures he had acquired earlier in his calves, and the taut lacerations about his throat from claws and nails. The raked open wounds across his back and the bruises on his chest from the crush of creatures that had piled upon him. Beneath all this was the underlying constant heat and foul dead air always tugging apart his strength and stamina. He was standing on adrenaline and sheer willpower. He was standing on adrenaline and sheer willpower, he knew, but that did little to curb his pride.
If I go, let me go alone. I know the way. Your fight is here. All will have been for nothing if you do not win here and now. This was your plan all along, was it not? If you get me to the other side of the river of lava down there, and I will find my own way. What? If you get me to the other side of the river of the lava down there, I will find my own way.
Yeah, I think that's how that's supposed to read.
See, I was saying earlier, like, every single episode I've been saying, like, man, this has been getting more and more, like, flawed as it goes on.
Someone's been forgetting to proofread.
Yeah.
I'm taking you to the portal.
Stop ignoring me for Stop ignoring me for once in your life. Okay. Stop ignoring me for once in your life and listen to what I am saying.
He snapped, his voice finally deadly cold.
I am a grown man, and I am a grown man and will not be treated like a child by you. You will respect me for who I am and let me make my own choices.
I'm 18, I can do what I want.
You're not my dad, Bihan.
The wraith paused, perhaps taken aback. He replied more carefully.
I'm not ignoring you, but I am taking you to the portal myself, by my own choice. I will make good on our deal before I proceed to the next stage of my plan.
There was a slight hesitation before the wraith slowly added.
Will you let me do this, Kuai Lang?
I appreciate your attempt to humor my request for respect, even if it is all superficial, but...
Sub-Zero.
Kuai Lang stared at him. A faint blush crawled painfully up his face. Noob Saibot had never called him that before.
If you insist on going alone,
The wraith continued.
I will do as you ask, and leave you on the other side of that river. You are Grand Master of the Lin Kuei. I do not doubt your ability to get out of the Nether Realm alive.
Kuai was stunned into silence. He also, now they looked, saw that the horizon bent and tilted in such a way that he was not at all sure where he'd come from. He looked back to his brother and thought he saw something glittering in his eye, as if this situation was playing out somewhat according to his design.
Take me to the portal.
Kuai said gruffly. After the first portal jump, Kuai seized Noob's arm and pointed back up to the hilltop. They stood now beyond the river of fire, and Kuai was pleased to see that the scale of devastation he had wrought was making all movement about the fell difficult. Bodies were stacked on stakes or piled up in pits or rolled down the still unstable earth where he had torn up the ground with ice shards. It was not at this that he pointed, however. An imposing man, face partly worn down to the skull beneath, stood in semi-centurion garb, surveying the scene as he stood before the churning portal. When he moved, his limbs possessed the fluidity of their own, bending at impossible angles, as if all his joints were backwards. Kuai could not even see a consistency in the way that body moved. The sight unnerved him in a way that even the most gruesome Netherrealm sights could not. Noob nodded beside him.
The agents of chaos certainly live up to their name.
You allied with that? What even is he?
There are no true alliances in the chaos realm. I opened a gate and let in a people who despise ordered death and agreement that serves both our purposes for the present. Let us go.
Kuai watched as the Cleric of Chaos let fall the chain of a morning star. His body contorted out of the way as he swung the steel full circle, breaking what would have been his own spine merely to extend the reach of his weapon. His body tilted back up with no injury as he changed the angle and sent another circle of bodies flying in multiple directions.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Kuai murmured.
I always do.
Noob seized them and pulled him down into another portal. They moved quickly over the tormented landscape, sometimes with Noob Saibot's short-distance teleport, and at other times by foot. Each proved difficult for Kuai Lang. The scars of recent battle were beginning to feel very present, combined with older half-healed injuries that took the opportunity to pain him as his adrenaline slumped. He could feel the burn in his soles from the molten lava the day before, and the consistent dry heat and poor diet coming to a crashing climax in his body. Each teleport only added to this pressure, squeezing him as if through a thin, suffocating tube only to exacerbate the conflicting pains trying to tear him apart. He summoned his muscles to obey his will and set his teeth hard.
You have spent a long time in this realm. longer than I did when I was alive. It is not good for the living to linger among the dead.
Master of the obvious.
He meant that to sound casual, but it came out forced in texture with the warring agonies within. Noob Saibot looked at him, but Sub-Zero did not bother trying to gauge what was going on in his brother's head. The last stretch took them by the same rickety path they first arrived by. Its faintly familiar image wavered before Kwai's tired eyes. When they passed the gully where he had first seen Serena, he paused. Guessing his mind, Noob said,
She made her decision.
Kwai nodded slowly.
I really thought that she would stay and help us. She seemed so sure of what she wanted.
Everything in Netherrealm is sure of what it wants. But we must weigh up those desires against our fears. There is very little worth attaining here that makes risking insurgents a viable option. Serena is a creature from this realm who is always trying to break free. Where she places her trust says more about those she encounters than it does about her. She is always resilient, but she will not fight losing battles. That she turned back to Quan Chi means that we failed her, not that she fell short. Not that she felt short.
Not like you. Oh, wait, no, that's reading. Whoops.
Not like you to be so gracious in your assessment of others.
Noob Saibot gestured for them to continue.
You know nothing of demons. That she fights what is in her nature is an impossibility she is constantly trying to hold out against. Only as a wraith bound to the Netherrealm do I understand at what cost and with what difficulty she first betrayed Quan Chi for me. When others no longer bind her to her nature with their assumptions, only then will she be free. Until then, she is doomed to be the trickster, in all sincerity moving between freedom and captivity, betraying both sides in an eternal cycle. Quan Chi knows this, and uses it against his enemies.
If you knew all this, why did you not tell me? I would not have misplaced my trust so foolishly.
Truly.
Noob Saibot sounded tired as he looked up toward the site of the bright vortex of the Earthrealm portal, reflecting and consuming light as it blighted the landscape with its anomaly.
I did not think she would make the same mistake again of allying herself with my cause. I know the cycle of her betrayal is inevitable, but I did not think it would be me who would be involved in it again.
Maybe she likes you.
He'd said that in all lightheartedness, but the stare he got back made him swallow his humor very quickly. He winced and looked away before the moment got out of hand.
The Earthrealm portal.
Kwai said with all the brightness he did not feel either mentally or physically.
I've survived. I've survived Netherrealm in a week in your company, though I can't say which caused me more consternation.
Indeed.
Noob said dryly, still moving on slowly from the comment about Serena.
Can Quan Chi be killed?
Kwai kept the conversation steered on.
He can be imprisoned and subdued.
A fell light ignited in Noob Saibot's eyes at the thought of this.
And what? You'll start rearranging the Netherrealm furniture? Pardon me. Hiccups, for Pete's sake.
Ooh, that's rough.
I can censor it for you.
And what? You'll start rearranging the Netherrealm furniture to suit your style? Can you maybe turn down the heat? I'm not coming to visit until this place feels less like Scorpion's backyard.
Humor does not become you.
Nor world domination you.
The wraith raised an eyebrow, but then looked out over the cracked red land and its burning sky. His thoughts seemed to wander again from the present into a future where he was his own master. Sub-Zero wondered if he might take the moment to ask his brother to return with him, to ask him to let all of this go, to fight the cruelty of the Netherrealm and its hold over him. His heart fell as he thought on how little progress he had made in trying to help his brother see the error of his ways. He looked away with downcast eyes.
You did well today. You fended off an entire army alone.
The Wraith considered, matter-of-factly, then added,
I'm proud of you.
Kwai covered this surprise with a stoic silence. His glance slid warily and cautiously to watch his brother, steeling himself for the put-down that must come next. There was quiet, and his brother did not make eye contact. Kwai blinked in confusion. He could feel his insides curling as if he looked over the edge of a precipice.
Don't toy with me.
His throat was dry, but that might have been from the air.
I don't want to hear any more falsities from you. I want you to understand that my being here and everything I have done here has been of my own volition. I want you to know that and respect that. And stop trying to manipulate me by telling me what I want to hear and leading me from one charade into a...
I was being honest.
Kwai was so blank and speechless that he could not form words, let alone an expression. He stood there stupidly. He looked away suddenly into the horizon and initiated a default emotionless slate to hide everything surging within him.
What you did back there was impressive. I knew I made a good decision in choosing you to aid me. You are much stronger than the young man I left behind when I voyaged to Shang Tsung's island, but you still have much to learn.
Kwai looked at him, for once able to meet that gaze on an even term, and take both the compliment and the advice.
You do not yet understand your true strength. Remember my mistakes. Learn from where I went wrong. Don't be me, Kuai Lang. Be you. That is what I wanted to protect from the Grand Master. You have something special. Something I could never understand or emulate. Now go. Be free. Like you always wanted.
The Wraith turned back toward the way they had come.
Wait, Bihan. What do you mean, like I always wanted? I've never known what I wanted.
Noob Saibot gave him a familiar, scornful look.
Kuai Lang, must you always ask such stupid questions? It is blindingly obvious to everyone that meets you that you have an absolute conviction in your beliefs and never have or will be swayed otherwise. Why do you think Smoke and Cyrax rebelled against the Cyber Initiative? Why do you think I continually step between you and all the consequences of your rebellion? Why do you think Serena remembered her old familiarity with me? You catch people up in your passion. They do ridiculous things because you make them believe that they can be something better than the dregs of life that have been handed to them. Both of us wielded ice, Kuai Lang, but only one of us burned fire inside. You spent so long looking up or behind that you never seemed to notice that the rest of us were looking to you. We never understood what was going on in your crazed head, but we knew it must not be snuffed out by the Lin Kuei.
Kwai Lang pulled off his mask and pushed down his hood.
Brother, what are you?
Quiet. We have talked long enough. I have a war to win. I believe your price for this venture was a conversation. In an uncharacteristic act of charity, I will exclude this trip down memory lane and grant you one more audience at a time and location of your choosing, provided I am not being tortured for eternity for a failed coup.
Kwai Lang watched him with silent but intense eyes, concern written in his posture, but never spoken. A sudden thought flashed across his mind.
Wait, Bihan. There's something I meant to ask you.
He saw the Ray's eyes narrow.
On the first day I was here in Netherrealm,
He took a deep breath.
when I collapsed, you gave me water to drink. Where did it come from? I've not seen any at all in Netherrealm, and I was unconscious, so I could not make the ice. And I was unconscious, so I could not make the ice myself.
Noob Saibot regarded him inscrutably, then pulled his arms across his chest.
Goodbye, Kuai Lang.
He plunged down into a dark, oily portal and vanished. Kwai watched the place he left for some time afterwards. An emptiness formed up around him and he felt something ache within, as if he'd again lost something integral to him. He focused on his quiet breathing, the only breathing in all Netherrealm. Then he turned and walked through the gateway between hell and earth. He felt old, gnarled hands falling away from him and strength flow through his limbs like rich rivers. Distant voices snapped and clamored, howling at his departure and escape. He brushed past them like wreaths of fireflies. His will bent on singular forward movement. Then there was silence. Light furs shifted noiselessly in a slight wind. Their needles glowed red with the glowed? Huh. Didn't know that was the past tense. Their needles glowed red with the dying light of a bright white sunset. Brooding clouds murmured in corners of the sky and in places shed tears of tumbling snow. He exhaled and saw his breath distill into great cold plumes. He felt the bites and scars of another world's war dull and fade into dimness. A sudden gust of wind shook the still furs.
Furs.
Furs, okay, it is furs, good.
Yeah, like fir trees.
Yeah, I don't know what those are. And ruffled
You don't?
blankets of deep snow that thud to the floor. He felt the chill brush over his arms and set his hair on end. The air he breathed in was spiked with cold and sharp in his lungs. Light and shadow stood in sharp contrast, black and white, each knowing where one ended and the other began. When he looked up, he could see the roots of ancient mountains, bellies lost the thick white mists, shot through with the later gold of the evening. Home. Ho! And now we move on to the epilogue. Yeah.
Let's go.
The still quiet of winter settled over the austere carved stone of the temple. Snow fell with a slight certainty. Each flake waited with a purpose in its steady tumble. Good lord. A blanket of pure white spread over the courtyard and covered the fine detail on old guardians standing in the architecture and intricacies wrought in the pagoda roofs. He turned back from the window where he had paused to watch the serenity. Lines of students were working through a form to a count ringing out from the front. They stepped in unison, blocked in unison, turned and kicked in unison. The sight of that order after the hot confusion of the time he had spent in the Netherrealm was sorely welcome. He walked up the rows, looking for irregularities and mistakes. He came to a stand at the front of the room. They finished the form with a shout, brought their feet together, and bowed. He nodded and glanced outside again. He wanted to partake in the solace and tranquility that picture offered. There would be other days to work on form and technique. He dismissed the class and began to make his way to a side door.
Grandmaster?
Oh my god! Okay. He was careful not to let his irritation show when he turned to the student. A boy of about 10 stood before him, anxiously twisting his hands as the Grandmaster's gaze rested on him.
What is it?
Kuai Lang kept his tone even, but the child seemed to jump at the depth of his voice regardless.
I just wondered if I could ask you a question, Grandmaster.
The boy looked at him, then glanced away as if afraid. The Grandmaster nodded for the boy to continue.
We we train so that we can be the best killers in all the world, right? I just wondered.
The child looked abashed.
I I just wondered why, Grandmaster. Didn't you once say that there are other ways to resolve conflict than with violence? If that's true, then why do we train to assassinate people? Isn't that just resolving other people's conflicts with violence?
Kuai Lang smiled gently at the child. The question was well spoken and respectful.
We don't train just to assassinate people, young one. We train to understand ourselves. We discipline we discipline ourselves and find ourselves in the stillness that comes of knowing the fullest limits of body and mind. We train to be at one with all around us, and strive to know perfection in all we do. All right, Grandmaster, I know that. You always say that, but it doesn't explain why we kill people, and why we sell our skills to kill for other people.
The boy seemed to have forgotten some of his shyness, and a petulant pout had settled on his lips. This irked the Grandmaster, but he removed all emotion from his face.
Part of what the Lin Kuei have always done is to offer their services to those nearby. It used to be our way of living alongside the local community. They would feed us, and in return we would protect them, and remove those who sought to indenture them. Now that exchange is global. We offer our services to any who need them all over the world. The price we ask feeds all the temple. I look over the contracts we receive carefully, and accept only those I wish to. Alright, Grandmaster, but I still don't understand why those people have to die. Why does it have to happen this way? What do you mean, why? I just explain why. To support our temple, to honor our name and history. It's the way the Lin Kuei have always been. What more why do you want? It's just, you said it's because it's the way it always has been, but I don't understand why that means. Questions! Always with questions.
Sub-Zero finally drew himself up to his full height and folded his arms.
Enough of this. This is the Lin Kuei way. That's all you need to know. You're wasting training time. Drop this now. Do you understand? Yes, Grandmaster.
Said the boy automatically. He bowed quickly.
I didn't mean any disrespect, Grandmaster. I didn't mean to question the Lin Kuei. I said enough.
The boy bowed again, backed away, and scuttled off. Sub-Zero turned once again to the still winter scene outside. He relaxed a little when he saw its purity and order.
Finally,
The Grandmaster said softly.
a moment of peace.
And that's it, everybody! Woo!
We did it!
It's
Yay.
over!
It's a fairly low-key way to end it, but sure.
What do you mean? He finally got peace, you know? It literally started with this man being dragged into hell. Okay, you need to understand this, okay?
Sometimes all you need is peace and quiet.
Yeah, you know?
Well, I mean, I like the final chapter.
Now, when you say final chapter, do you mean the final chapter or the final chapter?
Like, the one before the epilogue.
Okay.
Chapter 6.
Chapter 6.
Would have been something if he'd come out of the portal and then like giant Cage punches him in the nuts right after.
Yeah, that's some more canon typical violence.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite canon typical violence. So, what's everybody's opinion on the full story?
I just had fun following along. I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was very entertaining watching the writing quality deteriorate between every chapter, but aside from that,
Yeah,
it was just good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't comment on that, obviously, but, like, the actual story itself I liked.
Yeah, like, just everything that was introduced and discussed it was very good. The only issue that I kind of had was like we didn't even know everything about what everything looked like, you know. And of
Well, I
course, I'm
feel
only saying that because I'm the one who had to read it all. But you know,
yeah, that's I've noticed that that's a hard thing to balance with writing, like how much like how much is like describing too much, where it's just
Yeah.
it's just a bunch of word soup. Because
I have
I've seen fics where they just overanalyze like the environment, and it's just like, please just get on with it.
I have a video on deck that I need to watch down the line that's about like detail in writing. So maybe I'll give it a watch. I probably should. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was just it was a nice character study of the two brothers and I guess what makes them similar and what makes them different. And yeah, it's not much to say. It was a good story. I enjoyed it just as a Mortal Kombat fan. Just it's a well-written story on its own merits as well.
yeah, it was a fun story.
Yeah, I mean,
I do like how colorful it was though.
yeah, I feel like me, Raider, and Ped can only say so much because we barely know anything about Mortal Kombat. So
Yeah. I know Scorpion streams get over here, and I know they don't know how to pronounce Raiden correctly. Okay?
Yeah.
That's
So-
that's my full knowledge.
So all I can
Yeah,
yeah.
I was thinking of asking when Scrappy's read his name earlier. I was thinking of asking. So is it like actually pronounced Raiden throughout the
That's-
whole series?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
spelled. It was initially spelled Rayden, at least in some ports.
Yeah.
He may be inspired by the Japanese god of thunder, but he's at this point his own
Character.
He's his own thing at this point. Like Mortal Kombat is Eastern mythology interpreted by Americans in Chicago.
I see.
The ultimate form of cultural appropriation that nobody cares about.
Everyone looks the other way because it's Mortal Kombat,
Yeah.
the game that created the ESRB.
Yeah. Oh.
They've gotten marginally better over time. It's like they don't. Whatever the majority of like, for lack of a better term, the majority of the Easternisms that are still in the games are just kind of holdovers from the earlier titles. Like
Yeah,
Them-
I get it.
playing Mortal Kombat 3, you can already see them kind of starting to veer away from like the ninjas and everything. It's
You can
Mortal
already
Kombat.
see them realizing they have no clue what they're talking about.
No, they just got into a tiff with Scorpion's actor, and they just decided, we don't need Scorpion or Johnny Cage.
Imagine thinking you don't need Scorpion or Johnny Cage.
And here's Scorpion on the box covers.
No,
of
we-
the
we-
modern games.
We don't need Scorpion.
Well, no, we need
Now, speaking while we have the most iconic character be Scorpion.
replace him with Ultra Instinct Shaggy will be great.
Oh yeah, exactly, dude. I can already imagine Ultra Instinct Shaggy, just like ripping someone's spine out. That's the good stuff right there.
Like, get over here, man.
Is this the power of Ultra Instinct?
It's like, get over here.
Beautiful.
His
Yeah.
friendship kill, he just whips out Scooby and they all eat Scooby snacks together.
Oh my god.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was just the writer clearly had a strong grasp on like just the characters.
Yeah.
One observation I will make is I don't know if this is like again fan fiction is not canon obviously, but I can't parse which timeline of Mortal Kombat this is supposed to be in.
Yeah, in the notes it says this is an unapologetically haphazard amalgamation of previous and current Mortal Kombat timeline events to create a new story.
I see. Okay.
Okay, there we
Yeah.
go. That
Awesome.
that makes sense.
That's amazing.
All right, that I kind of wish they had been upfront about that from the start, but
Well,
I
they
love that everything is canon root. Until it makes me angry in Sonic.
anyway,
everything is
so
canon. The Sega Popcorn Maker is my favorite Sonic game.
So yeah, like I was wondering because Sub-Zero when he becomes a Lin Kuei Grandmaster can differ, like his age had become his age becoming a Grandmaster differs between the timelines.
Mm.
So, like when Noob is around, or when Sub-Zero is aware of Noob's existence, and when Quan Chi is still active, when and where Sub-Zero recruits Frost, yeah, it's just, this is its own thing, I can accept that.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
So all of those things sound like, yeah, it happens eventually.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I try not to think about this kind of thing too hard with fanfics.
Like,
All of
it
them-
sounds like they wanted to make different timelines, but they just said, yeah, it just happens earlier this time.
It's a split
Yeah,
timeline
sure.
theory. Let's go.
I'm not even sure if it's a matter of it being earlier. They don't say how old Sub-Zero is, so we don't know. Like, all the stuff I mentioned happens in both timelines. It's just a matter of just a difference in, like, when. Sub-Zero does reform the Lin Kuei to be less shady overall. I mean, yeah, they still kill people, but I'm not sure if they're hired assassins in the games anymore. They're kind of more of a backup defense force for Earthrealm. So that does make the child's questions in the epilogue valid.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that is that is good context to have.
I don't think the Lin Kuei serve as mercenaries in the games after Kuai Liang reforms them. At least as far as I know. Maybe he does, but I don't know. Like, he'll gladly rip someone's spine out, but I don't think he's really about the mercenary life.
It's a new timeline.
Yeah, new timeline.
Yay!
See you in the next Mortal Kombat game.
See you in Mortal Kombat 12.
Yeah.
So, what was I gonna say? Okay, yeah, I enjoyed the story. I tried to voice the characters as accurately to their game counterparts as I could. Yeah, my Quan Chi sounds like Dr. Cortex.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I took one listen at Noob Saibot's voice. I think it was from like Mortal Kombat 10. Decided I'm not doing that, and never went back for any of the other characters.
He's not in 10 or X. He's in 11, and he sounds like Dr. Claw.
Huh.
Yep,
Gonna be
and I
on
just
the
made
topic.
sure not to even, read any other characters. I was only narration, no siree. Not gonna try to figure out those voices.
So
You did a wonderful job narrating.
Dr. Claw is the name I've heard, but I don't know where.
Is that,
He's from.
is that Inspector
Inspector
Gadget?
Gadget.
Okay, I thought so, but I wasn't sure.
Oh, I thought it was Aqua Teen. I found it!
What?
What?
There was
You
so
remember
much
that thing we
enthusiasm
were talking about? You remember that thing we were talking
Shut
about
up,
before?
shut up, Brandon, shut up, shut up.
Oh.
Oh!
Oh my god.
Let's go!
Let's go! It may have taken the whole story time chapter and a half to find it, but you found it!
Oh my god.
I hate all of you.
And we're going to explain
Banned on
context.
Twitch, let's go.
Banned on Twitch.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into it unless we want the account banned.
No.
I mean, this could be the final overall episode. We were talking about it like a couple weeks ago.
Final episode of Story Time?
Final
Anyone?
episode?
Final episode of Seasbrain Twitch. Period.
Finally.
I found all the 7 Chaos Emeralds.
Finally.
be honest-
I have all 7 Chaos Emeralds. No, wait, no, it's I've got all the Chaos Emeralds.
When one of the characters said, "This is who I am" in chapter 6, I was so expecting Harry to pop in again. I was
Goodbye, Doctor.
I mean, it probably came into my head, I don't remember.
God, that neutral ending is my favorite one of those. It's my favorite ones.
Just the freaking karate chop.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know if he does it in dark neutral.
anyway.
Yeah, moving on.
Yeah.
moving on.
Goodness gracious.
We've already discussed enough Shadow the Hedgehog.
So yeah, I enjoyed the story. It's nice to get kind of just get I guess a bit more I guess emotional range from the generally unflappable Kuai Liang, who's like
What the
there's
heck
many.
is Spider-Man doing? The video.
I'm just screwing around. I don't know. I
Okay.
I don't know.
My guy was freaking out for a couple seconds. Okay, you can continue, Scrappy.
Like Sub-Zero, I guess the primary Sub-Zero, the one who's in all the sequels.
The new
Like-
Sub-Zero.
Yeah, new introduced in 1993, but
-2.
It's like new Super Mario Bros.
Oh.
so yeah, he's a pretty deadpan guy in the game. So like it's getting a bit more just emotional range from him in this story is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not get deadpan from him in this story.
Mm.
That's because he's very much out of his element. He's
He's a little brother stuck in hell.
pretty much.
Has he ever been to another realm?
Uh, when he's killed in Mortal Kombat 9, his
God damn it, he fucking dies!
Rip.
Spoilers.
He dies too.
Come on, man.
Rip.
his soul
Now we
is,
need Sub-Zero 3.
Quan Chi takes his soul and
-3.
Quan Chi takes his soul and basically makes him into a revenant. So that's like something slightly more sentient than something slightly more sapient than a zombie.
Mm.
So yeah, he was a robot. He had been forcibly turned to a robot at the time, so his body was effectively resurrected as a robot in hell. So that was weird.
Shadow android.
Oh,
This is who I
robot.
am.
It all comes back to Shadow the Hedgehog.
It always does.
I
Oh.
should have said cyborg, not robot. He still had some organic parts, but he gets better. Don't worry.
What?
It gets better.
When
Less robotic.
didn't you die? I got better.
I hit myself and repaired myself.
Oh, yeah.
Mortal Kombat is an American comic book. Death means nothing.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's like one of those like comments when someone asks how to get better at a video game, and someone just says, "Just get better."
Yeah, good.
It's like, how do I defeat Scorpion? Just get better, bro. I died. What do I do? Just get better.
I do love saying that though.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite It's one of my favorite pieces of joke advice.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, so he has been in the Netherrealm. Not often though, for obvious reasons. Oh wait, he also went in Mortal Kombat Deception, the 6th game. He does appear. He does go to the Netherrealm in a few endings, I think. It doesn't end well for him there.
Sad.
Ah.
Well, it's hell.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah, that game is actually where I might have said this like in the first part. That game, that's Mortal Kombat 6. That's where we find out Noob Saibot was the original Sub-Zero.
Ah.
He was just
Ah.
a black shroud beforehand.
Wow. See how it is.
Developing lore. Let's go.
Mm.
So yeah, that's about all I've got to say. Oh, poor Peter.
Got hit by that car too.
So yeah, I enjoyed the story. It was just nice to see the characters interact and have the lore be given its own twist. Yeah, I like seeing Drawman and Malak and Havoc, who don't really appear in the modern games as much. So
Even if
Speaking
he
of
didn't really
drama.
say anything.
yeah, I thought he would talk, but he didn't. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you don't read ahead,
Didn't even
kids.
speak.
Yeah, like, and you also only asked about Draman, not the other one.
Because
So
Malak,
I thought you did read ahead.
I read
Yeah.
slightly ahead. I assumed Drawman talked because, well, he's the slightly more intelligent of the two in the games. Malak is more of a roaring beast.
Well, I guess
he-
that's why we look at the characters.
He didn't like Malak hasn't spoken outside of one animated movie, and he was thoroughly redesigned in that.
Did he speak like a prim and proper gentleman?
No, he
Did he
spoke
say,
like
"Good day, good sir"?
no, he spoke like Fred Tatasciore doing a monster voice.
Oh. Some dude
So-
doing a monster voice. That's all I need to know.
Yeah, that's all I registered.
Fred Tatasciore, I don't know, the guy who voices Magnus in Category Uprising.
Ah.
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
That's
See, that,
yeah,
I-
that
that's
makes
really
sense.
easy.
That
I,
makes
I'm gonna have to
sense.
remember how Magnus sounds.
Like a
Okay,
dude
Henry.
with a big sword.
This game.
Fair enough.
Okay, the guy who voices Hulk in most Marvel media.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
That's a lot easier. The silence is deafening.
I'm
I
I'm
feel-
out of breath. at
I
the
feel
time.
I feel like we're pretty much near coming to the end of this.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, that's what
I
I'm
mean, we're-
feeling
we're
too.
20 minutes over the point where I try to extend to, you know, so
Yeah.
I've been tapped out for 20 minutes now, you know.
So,
I don't have anything
Yeah.
else to say about the story.
so yeah, this is our first Mortal Kombat story, provided the story time isn't like, nuked off the face of the earth in 2 to 3 years. I don't think this will be our last Mortal Kombat story. So,
I guess as long as we have stories to read, it's like, yeah.
speaking of stories to
I don't
read,
think
yeah,
that's an issue. I think the real issue is staying together.
The real issue sure is work ethic.
speaking of stories to read, as it was stated earlier, I'm writing something. Hopefully, it will be done in time for Christmas. So until then, we might read something else like next week, or we might just take a break until my stuff is ready. Who
If-
knows?
I guess as long as we don't want to start something big, it would just be like a random one-off thing.
Yeah.
Most likely.
I guess we'll just see what we can get up.
We could probably
Oh,
dust
well,
off that
time.
one. We could probably dust off that one Rugrats story we read in 2020.
Rug.
Maybe I'll sing the song lyrics better this time.
Have any of you seen that video that takes a one-winged angel and plays it through the Rugrats sound font?
Yes.
No, but I've seen a video.
Video.
I've seen a video where they do that, but it's what is it?
Kirby.
It's like the DK rap or something.
Yay! Donkey Kong!
DK, Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong.
Stop posting about Donkey Kong!
Oh my god.
I'm tired of seeing it!
Okay.
So, yeah, well, I'm writing. Wish me luck.
Yep. Hopefully it's
And
in time
I'll-
for Chrysler.
Anyway, I'll wish all of you luck because you're all involved in it, whether you want to be or not.
I know. He's gonna force me to.
Love
He's
being
gonna
forced to
force
be
me to
involved.
actually voice a character.
Yep. You're gonna be forced to voice an American.
Because Scrappy always makes me voice.
The horror! A British man voicing an American character.
My Scrappy always makes me voice like the highest pitch characters.
I mean, your voice is perfect for it. Haven't you heard it?
Oh my god.
That's comedy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Less comedy, just more, I guess, utility. Like, hey, everyone else already did. Like, all the other voices were filled out, so yeah, take, I don't know, well, let me check my notes. Ruby Kurosawa.
I still remember when.
and talk like this all the time.
I still
That's scary.
I still remember when you made me voice Ren. That was like the first thing I did, wasn't it?
I believe so.
That was something. Oh Christ.
It's me, the Uber driver.
Oh god.
Trying to be the Uber driver.
The designated driver.
Okay, I think I'm done.
So, yeah, that will be, I think that's about it. Thank you, One Shot Revolt for your work. And, yeah, we you'll see us eventually, sometime this month, hopefully.
Yes, and I guess
They are tapped. It's tonight.
and with a story done, and like I need to find another game to stream during this now because I'm done with Spidey. So,
Spidey's dead. We killed him.
so yeah, I'll have to think of something.
Spider-Man is dead, and we killed him.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.